This is Nimbus Yosh, aka X Darkwing 104X, coming at y'all with the second Dark Fade because it's been a while and I feel like making a movie. So this is for all the shorties out there that think that there's like anything that's hard in Dcuo. I'm not gonna lie, Batcave 2, FOS 2, and Prime right now about the hardest things you can do in Dcuo. When Batcave 2 first came out, it was damn near impossible. When FOS 2 came out, it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. It's still ridiculous to this day. It was only about a month, maybe 2 months ago, I finally got the speed feat for that. Prime, I still don't have no tag out. I just haven't really gone for it. But that's still like all these about the hardest things you can do in Dcuo. The good thing about it is, if you have 8 well-geared players that know what they're doing, got mics, doing what it do, you can still complete those raids. I would say, in comparison to what I'm about to say, fairly easy. You know, nothing in Dcuo you can't beat with 8 well-geared people. Now, there was a little game that I played for about 8 years called Final Fantasy XI. They don't make games like that no more. They don't make games nearly as hard as Final Fantasy XI. I'm gonna give you some comparisons. As far as Prime is concerned, Prime was probably about the same as, say, Airship. Anybody that played Final Fantasy XI can remember Airship. I had Link shells are like leagues. I had Link shell mates that went and played that one 69 times and lost 68 in a row. Now, to give you a comparison again to Prime, imagine going into Prime, but not as a level 30, but as a level 15, and still having to beat it. And if you don't beat it, you have to go back and start Prime all over again. I mean, you have to go through, say, Kandak all over again to get to the part where you had to get to Prime. It was goddamn ridiculous. And that's Prime. Prime is about the hardest thing you can do in Dcuo. Then let me tell y'all about Dynamic Zarkabard. Dynamic Zarkabard was a raid. First of all, to even get to Dynamic Zarkabard, you had to go through a bunch of other raids to get the Dynamic Zarkabard. So imagine all the raids that they have on the books now: Batcave 1 through 3, FOS 1 through 3, Prime, Gates of Tartarus, Wayward, and Dawn on the hero side. I don't know what the villain side is called, but you have to go through all those just to get to Dynamic Zarkabard. And it's not like in Dcuo where it's like, all right, we got 8 people together, we're flagging, we're gonna go in, all right, we're done with the raid. 5 minutes later, after everybody sells and repairs, they can go in again and go into another raid. No sir. Dynamis you can only do once every 48 hours. So once you do the first one, you have to do the next one. Once you do the next one, you have to do the next one. You have to go through 4 raids to qualify to get to the next raid, then to get to Dynamic Zarkabard. Now remember, each time, if you're hardcore just going through it, you had to wait 48 hours. I think they fixed that by now. You only have to wait 24 hours to go into the raid now, and you can do it a lot easier because they raised the level cap, but we're going to scratch that. This one, we're going to say the level cap was at Dcuo level 30. So you have to wait 48 hours to get to this raid. First, you had to raise 1 million gil, which is about $1 billion in Dcuo money. Had to raise $1 billion Dcuo dollars to get into the Dynamics. Now, once you get into that, they drop coins, and you can sell the coins, and you can make your money back, and that's how you funded going into there. Now, each one of these Dynamics is back in its heyday. You couldn't go in there with no less than 18 people. no less than 18. And 18 was just about the base. You had to have a certain amount of tanks. Tanks were actually useful in Final Fantasy 11. They actually did something. You actually effing needed them. You needed tanks in Final Fantasy 11, and that's one thing that's different from Dcuo. And I really wish Dcuo would add like a provoke move or whatever. So you had all these. You had to get your tanks, you had to get your buffer debuffers, you had to get your healers, you had to get your nukers, you had to get your DDs, you had to synchronize and chorus all these players to do what they're supposed to do without built-in voice chat. You didn't have voice chat. You still had people that even played on dial-up. So you didn't have all the perks and the situations that you have in Dcuo. Again, 16 to 18 people. It's not like Dcuo. You just get 8 people in the shout chat and you just go in. No, you had to schedule it 1 to 3 months in advance. First off, second off, because only one group of people can go in at a time. It's not like in Dcuo anybody can go anytime they feel like. You had to schedule it ahead of time. You had to schedule a schedule ahead of time. You can only do 2 of these dynamics per week because it's once every 48 hours. Once you get in there, you have to win. If you don't win, you gotta try again in the next 48 hours. So you had to go through all that nonsense. Like I said, you had to go through 4 raids before you get to the middle kind of a raid, which was still stupid hard and stupid long. I mean, it's in Final Fantasy. I mean, in Dcuo, a good raid lasts 45 minutes to an hour. In Dynamics, a good Dynamics lasted about 3 to 5 hours. 3 to 5 hours, 18 plus people. You have to coordinate all that at the same time. Only could do it once every 48 hours. You had to do those 4, and if you failed, you had to start over again. You had to get those first 4, and then the middle one, Dynamis Bosidine, that one was a 3 to 6 hour affair, and it was huge and it was long, and you had to beat it. You can't sidetrack, because if you sidetrack, you have to start all over again in 48 hours. And then once you get all that done, then you get the Dynamis Arcabar, which took about 3 to 4 hours to get to the Shadow Lord, which was the last dude. Now the Shadow Lord was effing ridiculous. You can't go into, and back in the heyday, you could not go into Dynamis Arcabar with anything less than 25 to 40 people. Imagine 25 to 40 heroes in Dcuo. The servers would crash. Like, you couldn't do it. 25 to 40 people. You had to go in, you had to go through just about the toughest monsters in Final Fantasy 11 to get to the Shadow Lord. Then you had to fight his dragon pets or whatever to get to him, and then once you get to him, you had to beat him within 6 minutes. If you didn't burn him within 6 minutes, he duplicated himself. Now at the time, he was about the hardest thing one of the hardest things you could do in Final Fantasy. He duplicated, and if he duplicated, you lost because he cast instant death and then slaughtered everybody, and then you had to try again in 48 hours. So you had to go through all that to get to the Shadow Lord, and if you wound up beating him within 6 minutes, congratulations, you won. And it was still not in the top 3 hardest things you can do in Final Fantasy 11. So if you ever feel like Dcuo is just a little bit too hard for you to handle, consider Final Fantasy 11 and how hard that damn game was. I loved Final Fantasy 11. It was great. It was awesome. The people in there was awesome. But it was hard. It was Nintendo hard. It set the bar, and there will never be another MMO like that again that I can think of that people will actually pay for, because nowadays people just ain't got the stomach to handle all that challenge and all that frustration. That's one of the reasons why I say the Nimbus is the last of the dying breed, because a brother like me can actually go through that frustration and actually see it towards the end. hopefully you could be one of those type of people too. Hopefully you can build yourself up, because it could be a lot worse. Heroes for life, so is the life for life. We do what it do. We finish the job. And shouts out to all the people that I remember in Final Fantasy 11. Shouts out to the people in Dcuo. Thanks for listening. Y'all have a good one. Percy. Oh, and shouts out to Sandoria. That's my people. Holla back at your boy.